And now on BBC One, Nature in Action. Today's show contains images of animals mating, which young viewers and those of a particularly nervous, bashful or Christian disposition may find upsetting.
Hello and welcome to Nature in Action. Today's programme is about a species we all know and love, the student.
How much do we really know about this beautiful, mysterious animal? During this episode, we'll be looking at the habitat, mating habits and diet of the student, among other things. But for now, let's have a look at the history of the student.
The student was once a free-roaming species. They were discovered in the late 1600s by Dr. Stuart Dent, who named them after his cat, Pebbles. They lived alongside humans for many years before hunting rendered them an endangered species. The government took drastic action and opened up several nature reserves across the country, known as universities, to preserve and study this illustrious creature. Small concentrations of wild student remain around the country today, under constant danger from poachers and lack of controlled society.
Very sad. Let's have a look at student anatomy. The student is physically virtually indistinguishable from the human, apart from a slight curvature in the spine that results in a self-important slouch. The clothes-like epidermis, known colloquially as the student's skin, is hunted extensively by humans in order to uphold and progress the modern fashion industry.
There are 4 main subspecies of the student. We have gathered an example of each in the studio today. Here is Studentus articus, the art student. The typical slouch seen throughout the species is even more present in the subspecies, and MRI studies have found increased activity in self-awareness areas of the brain. This subspecies has also developed a satchel-like pouch into which they place notebooks and writing utensils for their frequent yet unmerited flash of inspiration. These regularly result in childish scrawls with themes of unrequited love and pain.
Studentus mathematicus, the math student. This subspecies is wholly incapable of the social integration seen between other species. Instead, they tend to seclude themselves in their dens, scrawling symbols that make little sense to the casual observer. Most math students possess an overbite, though unfortunately this student is not blessed with one, and is doomed to be shunned by her peers. There.
Studentus scientificus, the science student. Having gained limited insight into dubious areas of nature, this subspecies of student attempt to assume a dominant position over others with limited success. The science student has a remarkable ability to read vast amounts of research materials without learning anything of any value. This is reflected in their tendency to walk around in a slight daze, reciting statistics, often to inanimate objects.
Elephants are heavier but not taller than giraffe. Finally, the rarest subspecies, Studentus geriaptus, the mature student. Increased fertility has led this subspecies to develop offspring at an alarming rate, increasing the ageing of physical features and mental fatigue to a large extent. Levels of exhaustion are raised to extremes by the requirements of caring for several young and a mate, as well as an evolutionary imperative to perform repetitive tasks known as essay, something most other students skillfully avoid. It seems this one has formed an attachment to me.
Despite the variety of subspecies of student, phrenology remains much the same. This area deals mainly with budgeting for, purchasing, storing, consuming and processing alcohol. These lesser areas are involved with sexual activity, pasta, Facebook and finally academia.
But where does the student tend to make its home? Here's a field report from our special correspondents.
We are on location at a typical student den. The student has just left, which means that we can gain a valuable insight into their natural habitat. Okay, here we go.
Oh, this is incredible. You won't be able to smell this at home, but coming out of that door is an immense odour of pheromones. Now, pheromones are what the student emits to mark its territory wherever it goes.
As you can see, the prominent feature in this room is the clothing strewn out across the floor. Students shed their skin often, though intervals vary depending on personal hygiene. The student then grows another skin, a cleaner, alternatively styled skin, for use in gaining respect in social circles and attracting a potential mate.
But of course, this is a very, very rare occurrence for a human to be in a student's den. So clothing is often obtained from the source when the student is hunted. Oh, I like that top.
Here is an interesting area. There are bottles stacked on all surfaces, which I can only assume is some kind of barbaric ritual for a pagan god.
Now, the student is a partially nocturnal animal, so normally stays awake to the early hours of the morning, either socialising or Facebooking. Sleeping patterns vary, but the average student normally doesn't awake from slumber until the early hours of the afternoon.
And nearby, we have the main feature of the student den, the bed. Made from cheap fibres and liable to breakages, the creators of the universities place these in each den in order to encourage breeding.
Now, this student habitat is minimalist, and I think we've seen everything we can here. We'd better leave, because we do not know how long the student is gone for. This is Claire Newman.
And Louisa Agamemnos.
Reporting for
Nature in Action!
We're here now with Professor of Studentology, Alan Lewis.
Hello.
Hello. First of all, could you give us a summary of all the features of the typical student?
Well, we've done a lot of research on it, and so far, I mean, this is basically the sum total of our research. This is the entire research manual that we have. As you can see, not very thick, so get rid of that. Obviously, they eat almost anything they can find. They're basically scavengers. They have a very clever habit. When they see adult humans around, sometimes they pretend to recognize them, and then they go into a very strange thing called sponging. They mimic human behavior, such as properly eating in the upright position, and they will sponge off the adult and get free food that way. It doesn't last very long. As soon as the adults go away, they fall back into their own ways. But it does keep them healthy, which is quite nice. The other curious thing, of course, is their communication. We haven't really made much headway on the communication. We don't really actually understand it at all. It's a series of sort of guttural sounds, but there is one curious sound that we've noticed. It's kind of a cheeping sound. It's like birds. Like, and we hear this a lot. And we think there must be some significance to this sound, like, but we don't know what it is at the moment. As for the rest of it, it is complete gibberish.
Thank you.